flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, roll call, please.
Chairwoman Smith Rodriguez.
Here.
Vice Chairman Taylor.
Here.
Member Van Deven. Here. Member Wheelis.
Here.
All right, I believe a correction was found in the minutes, so new minutes were printed. If you all took a moment to review those, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I approve the new minutes as drafted here and with
Okay.
us.
I have a motion.
Second it.
I have a second. All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? No. All right. Rather than read off the quasi-judicial confirmation of procedures to the public, since there is no public, I will hold off on doing that until public has arrived, or an audience as a whole has arrived. All right. In the meantime, though, let me confirm with the city and staff, have the items been properly advertised today?
Yes, they have.
All right. Thank you. And let me check with our board. Have any of our board members spoken with anyone pertaining to this issue or visited any of the sites?
No.
No, and no for me. No across the board. We do not have a consent agenda, nor do we have old business, so we'll go right to new business, which is variance 14-2023 at 641 Loxley Court, which I think is on page 8 of the PDF. So, Mr. Mesnick?
So variance number 14-2023 at 641 Loxley Court. The applicant is Manuel Tovar. The variance request is for Land Development Regulations, Chapter 30, Section 30-321 for plant materials to allow the use of prohibited materials in the form of artificial turf for property located in the multifamily medium-density residential R2 zoning district at 641 Loxley Court, Titusville, Florida, as submitted by Manuel Tovar, the owner. So the future land use is medium density residential with the zoning as multifamily medium density residential, and the surrounding zoning districts are also multifamily medium density residential. The lot characteristics: the subject property is a 0.14 acre rectangle lot with frontage along Loxley Court. The lot contains a patio home unit to the north, east, and west, and other patio homes to the south. And other patio homes. To the south is Tract B, platted for stormwater management. The lot contains a 2.5-foot public utility and drainage easement on the sides, a 10-foot public utility and drainage easement along the front, and a 10-foot drainage easement on the rear. The use currently is a single-family detached dwelling, or patio home. So the powers of the BAA. Section 34-226 states that the board shall grant a variance request when, in the opinion of the Board of Adjustments and Appeals, owing to special conditions, the literal enforcement of such ordinance or regulations would do manifest injustice to or impose an unnecessary hardship upon the applicant. In order to authorize any variance to the provisions of such ordinance, the board must consider the following criteria. Special conditions and circumstances exist which are peculiar to the land, structure, or building involved and which are not applicable to other lands, structures, or building in the same zoning. Special conditions and circumstances do not result from the actions of the applicant. Granting the variance requested will not confer upon the applicant any special privilege that is denied by the ordinance to other lands, buildings, or structures in the same zoning. The literal interpretation of the provisions of the ordinance would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the same zoning district under the terms of the ordinance. The variance granted is the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the land, building, or structure. The granting of the variance will preserve the spirit of the ordinance and remain in harmony with its general purpose and intent. The granting of the variance, the public safety and welfare must be assured. In no case shall the granting of a variance result in a change of use which would not be permitted in that zone. So staff's analysis, the applicant is requesting a variance to allow the use of artificial grass in place of natural grass. Section 30-321F of the Land Development Regulations states synthetic plants prohibited. Synthetic or artificial material in the form of trees, shrubs, ground covers, vines, or artificial turf shall not be used in lieu of the plant's requirements in this section. The Brevard County Property Appraisal website shows the house was built in 2006 as part of the Sterling Forest subdivision. The plat for Sterling Forest was created in 2003. In 2006, this lot was approved for a patio home in the R2 zoning district. The lot has a 10-foot drainage easement to the rear, a 10-foot public or PUD easement in the front, and a 2.5-foot PUD easement on the sides. As shown on the proposed site plan, the owner will not intrude onto any easements. The lot is within the area of critical concern and has a maximum impervious coverage of 51%. The lot is currently near its maximum impervious coverage. The proposed artificial grass would be considered pervious as it does exceed what the city considers very rapid permeability. This would allow the artificial grass to not affect the ACC impervious coverage maximum. The lot does not appear to have any special conditions or circumstances that would create a hardship that would prevent from a natural landscaping. The applicant stated that the lot is of an irregular shape and has an excessive slope. The staff did not find evidence for either of these special conditions and believes the lot to be similar to that of the other lots in the subdivision. The staff recommends denial of the variance. There are no special conditions or circumstances which are peculiar to the land that would make it different from similar lots in the subdivision. By granting the variance request to allow for artificial grass, the applicant would be given a special condition that would be denied by the ordinance to other lands of the same zoning.
All right, thank you. Does the board have any questions of staff?
Could you refresh my memory? The landscape ordinance as it applies to single-family homes is enforceable for the first 12 months unless something has changed drastically since I've been intimate with this ordinance. Was that
Could you repeat the question, please?
to my knowledge, and I'm relying on my memory because I just realized what we were looking at. The landscape ordinance, as it applies to single-family homes, is only applicable for the first 12 months of after the CO, after the certificate of occupancy is issued. And after that, you can essentially do what you need to do on your property. You can remove required trees, you can plant a garden. So, and also, is this ordinance specifically applicable to single-family homes? Looks to me like it's land development regulations related to commercial development. I just need to be clear, that's all. I'm not
Right.
questioning.
So I'm not completely certain on the certificate of occupancy after the 12 months you were talking about. I believe I would have to look further into that. Do you know?
So let me ask a follow-up question or piggyback on this. I was looking up Municode, which I have up right now, so I could see the code, and I'm looking at the sections that were referenced. Is there a section in the code that specifically says what the landscaping requirements are for a residence after the initial certificate of occupancy is issued. I think it's kind of rephrasing Mr. Wheel's question. And I will specifically say, when I was looking at section 30-321, plant materials, the cited section discussing synthetic plants prohibited specifically says artificial turf shall not be used in lieu of the plant requirements in this section. And so when I'm reading that section, I do see where it says lawn, grass areas shall be planted in species normally grown as permanent lawns in Brevard County. But this doesn't actually discuss timing, certificate of occupancy, and all of that. So I have several questions. So I'll give you a second to look at your notes and collect your thoughts. In the meantime, I think I might have to go back to my notice to the general public. Hello, sir. Hi. Yeah, no, to you. Welcome. Are you the applicant? Let me pull it back up here. Sir, what's your name? Okay, so Mr. Tovar, we are actually discussing your variance request right now. So I'm going to read you a notice that I'm required to read when the public is present, okay? And then you'll have to be sure to fill out a card for me. So here's my notice. All persons who anticipate speaking on any public hearing item must first fill out an oath card to be heard on that agenda item and sign the oath contained thereon. These cards are located at the table near the entrance to the council chamber, or they may be retained from our recording secretary. This meeting will be conducted in accordance to the procedures adopted in Resolution 24-1997. Those speaking in favor of a request will be heard first, those opposed will be heard second, and those who wish to make public comment on the item will speak third. The applicant may make a brief rebuttal if necessary. A representative from either side, for or against, may cross-examine a witness. Anyone who speaks is considered a witness. If you have photographs, sketches, or documents that you desire for our board to consider, they must be submitted into evidence and will be retained by the city, and you can submit those exhibits to our recording secretary. So, Mr. Tovar, if you intend to speak on your request, please fill out an oath card and hand that to our recording secretary, and we will get to you momentarily.
So in response to Member Wheelis's question about the private property ability to modify their landscape and yard, I think that there has been interpretations based on Florida law that the private property has the ability to, for example, take out trees or use Florida-friendly landscaping and the like, but I still think that that complies with the intent of the city's landscaping code. And if you look, and I say this in part because I know that for anecdotal evidence that for individual properties that may fail to maintain either due to lack of lawn or something like doing digging, that if there's erosion or in a lack of maintenance of the elevation on the yard, that could be a potential code violation. And so I know that from experience that the failure to maintain one's yard may result in code violations or a violation of the LDRs. And then I also looked up in Municode the keywords yard maintenance to try and find where the code speaks to this. And I'm in 30-301 intent for landscaping requirements. And this falls within the Division 10 landscaping of the article on improvements on development standards, which is the same chapter that we are reviewing this section for. So 301 provides the intent, 302 provides the applicability to all development in the city, and 303 provides standards. And that section is what my search led me to. And I do believe that the single-family residential shows that table, the applicability of standards.
Let me ask this then on that note. So section 30-304, maintenance and inspections, states the healthy and viability of all required landscape materials on the site, whether preserved or newly planted, must be maintained through proper care or replacement in perpetuity after issuance of the certificate of occupancy, certificate of completion, or restoration. So when it says must be preserved or must be maintained through proper care, is there a previous interpretation that means the same standard applies from the initial plantings?
I would think so. I would also ask the applicant how this variance originated. I did read, of course, that there was, health concerns, but I'm wondering if the request was made to the city to provide synthetic materials or if it was first done. I'm not sure exactly what the history is here, so maybe that could shed some light on this scenario.
Mr. Willis, does that answer your questions at this point?
It does. It's obvious that the ordinance has been changed in the past years, so that explains it.
All right, any other questions from our board to staff? Seeing none. All right, we'll open up for our public hearing. Ms. Kim, I think you have a card up there.
Yes, Manuel Tovar.
All right, Mr. Tovar, would you like to speak on your variance request? All right, please come up to the podium. First, please state your name and your address.
My name is Manuel Tovar, and my address is 641 Loxley Court, Titusville, Florida, 32780.
I'll give you the floor first if you want to tell us about your request, and then we'll have some questions, and I'm going to also ask some questions related to council's comments.
Okay. Well, my request was kind of a long story, but I'm going to try to make it short. When I bought the house, it's already have a pool and a little bit pavered. So since I was cutting my grass, I discovered that I went to the doctor and I discovered that I'm allergic to grass. I don't even know that because I never had a house before with grass. So I decided to replace the grass with pavers. So according to the city and my neighbor said I'm not allowed to put pavers, which is already have some when I bought my house. So I replaced the grass with pavers all the way to my property. So all this problem come So the city made me to remove the paver. I lost that money. Don't talk about that. And I decided to replace with something that I can enjoy in my backyard with my family. So somebody asked me or tell me, well, why do you put synthetic grass? It's not kind of natural. It's not natural. They're going to affect you to be outside. So I decided to look for the contract. I have the name of the company. And I asked them, listen, I had this problem before. Are you sure I don't have any problem if you're installing this grass? I mean, this synthetic grass. He said, no, it's no problem. I never have a problem with this. I don't even know that I need permit. I said, okay, I believe them. They have the contract. They know better than me. They put all the grass, I mean, synthetic grass. Now, this problem come that according to the city, I'm not allowed to put any synthetic grass. So my request is, the reason why I did those two moves is because I'm still allergic to grass. I have a picture on my phone that how my skin was before. And one of the answers, I guess you have there, is it said, explain why I decided to make this change for synthetic grass. One of the things is, with all your respect, I know you have the right to enforce the law. But if you saw my grass, or the way it is right now, which I have a picture, if you saw my neighbor, is jungle. It's like, no kidding, I have a picture. So why the city of Titusville don't consider two issues for me, not for you guys. One is a health issues that I can enjoy with my family. And the other thing is, look at the way it is and look at the other ones. I believe that I write it down that with this change, which is concerned about my issues, I believe the other neighbors can look actually, my neighbor came to my backyard and looked my backyard. He said, wow, I want to do that too. I don't know what his reason why. I guess it's look better than he has. But the point is, first of all, I don't even know the law about the city of Titusville. I've been here only 2.5 years. I was living in Orlando before. I never have a house before with grass. I don't even know that I'm allergic to grass. I never been in the grass. I don't go to the park. That's the reason why I made this change, which I don't even know about the law or the code of the city.
Sir, do you have the artificial grass in the front yard and the backyard?
I got the natural grass in front. I don't cut my grass. I pay somebody to cut my grass.
So your artificial grass is in the backyard?
My backyard is already synthetic grass.
Is it only in the backyard?
Only in the backyard. If you want to show the picture, in my opinion, it's a smaller space.
Okay.
But
Okay.
I cannot decide it.
All right. And your request is for artificial grass, period, not necessarily to the front or the back. It's just to have.
Only in my backyard.
All right. Any questions to Mr. Tovar?
To be clear, I'm sorry. To be clear, the reason you're asking for this is for a medical issue.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
May I have you look at this to confirm that what we have on here is what has been done? Please. So the area in green that we see on page 20 is the area that has already been done.
It's already, yes, sir.
And you're not planning to put it in the front yard or
No.
down the back slope or anywhere else?
Because again, I don't cut my grass.
let me have you go back to the podium so everything can be recorded properly.
Okay.
No, it's never going to be my intention to replace the front yard with a synthetic grass. Never.
Any other questions for Mr. Tovar?
When you applied for a permit for this artificial grass, did you state it's only in a certain area in the backyard at all?
Well, I never request the permit because, again, I don't even know the code.
Okay.
I specific ask to the contractor if I need some permit. He said no. That's why I decided to, move forward with the job.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you, sir. You may be seated.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time. All right, I'm bringing it back to the board. Any either questions of staff or discussion amongst ourselves? I guess questions of staff first.
Question of staff.
Yeah, if you have.
Yes, is a permit required to do this work?
It's not currently permitted, so there's no mechanism for a permit for something that's not permitted. Without a variance.
If you're altering your landscape, does it not require a permit?
You can't issue for something that's prohibited. You can't issue a permit to an activity that's prohibited by the code. And so I don't know that this question has been presented to the building department because the code does prohibit this material. Landscaping modifications, if it's altering the site plan, then yes, it would need to go through site plan review, and then the impact would be based on that scale. But I don't know that this is categorically impacting the site plan because it's not something we've done before. I think it could be argued either way. I know that when you're altering a parking lot, which is something that's used by the public, then that's altering the site plan, but this is somebody's backyard.
It's apples and oranges. Single-family landscaping requirements, there's no permits required for
I don't think that there are. I mean, I don't see how, I know you're required to get a permit for a fence, which is a permanent improvement in someone's yard, but that's because of easements and things like that. And arguably, if the artificial turf was in an easement, would it be treated any different as than grass? I don't know.
All right, thank you.
To follow up, I read about ground covers and how you can actually use, or other, I have to look at the exact wording, I looked at definitions. You could have rock, pebble, mulch. You can have concrete. It said you can do all these things except concrete. It said other non-living things are perfectly viable. So if someone wanted to put rock, mulch, one of those things in all of their front yard and take down a tree, does that count as altering a site plan for a house that they bought 25 years later? Answer generally no, right?
I will also add that when I reviewed this ad, I did a minor bit of research on other jurisdictions, and there are, I thought that maybe we could discuss it at staff level prior to this hearing, and the staff response that I got was that perhaps if it goes further, then it would go to TEC for discussion, because it is an environmental concern, I think, what you're using as a planting. But there are other codes in other municipalities, Orlando, Marco Island, a couple of other places where it is allowed, under certain criteria, artificial turf. So I think that there's room to use this in appropriate ways, artificial turf, but the way our code is written does not allow it. So I can see the struggle that you all are facing tonight.
When I'm reading the intent of the section 30-301, and it specifically says, this section establishes sustainable landscaping practices that will maintain a healthy landscape for a prolonged period of time with extremely low water usage and low minimal maintenance requirements. I don't know what meets that requirement better than artificial turf at all, for starters. But when I read down to section 30-305 and discusses continuing maintenance, any person owning or occupying the site shall have the continuing duty and obligation to maintain or cause the maintenance of all landscaping required pursuant to this article by the approved site plan. However, in that section, it further goes on to say, all landscaping and landscape areas shall be maintained so as to present a neat and orderly appearance. Again, both sides of the coin.
I will also add that there are only 4 members present, and any variance request must be approved with a vote, an affirmative vote of 4 members, and the applicant was notified of this requirement prior to the meeting.
Further discussion amongst our board?
Yes. I would like to bring up the definition of hardship and how it applies to medical situations. Certainly, we've passed variances in the past based on medical criteria. Is the door open for that?
I don't recall granting, I recall having plenty of discussion in this room regarding medical conditions, but I don't recall ever granting it based upon that. I also think that well, I know that when the word hardship is used in the application, it's pertaining to the land and not its occupants.
When I look at this map, when I first read this, I was thinking it was a blanket, the whole thing, and then I could see, hey, there's a problem with water being able to percolate or rejuvenate the land. But I see it's all within the setbacks here. And I'm sure it looks a lot better than, as he said, the grass that was there previously. Especially if he couldn't use it and can't mow the grass, it looks pretty bad. I can imagine. So I'm inclined to think that maybe our code needs to be looked at on a staff level more closely. As we've said in the past, there are some things that need to be tweaked, and I honestly believe this might be an area that could be tweaked or should be tweaked. Whatever.
I wanted to look up the definition that I was trying to find earlier. Where it said the non-living items, landscape material, here it is. Definition, landscape materials. Consists of any of the following or combination thereof. Materials such as, but not limited to, grass, ground cover, shrubs, vines, hedges, trees or palms, and non-living durable material commonly used in landscaping such as, but not limited to, rocks, pebbles, sand, mulch walls, or fence, but excluding paving. I too think the code could probably use a little tweaking and read a little bit better in harmony amongst itself. While it is very clear it says synthetic plants prohibited within this section, the intent of that code and the intent to have nice appearance, low maintenance, and low water usage would actually suggest that such materials would be appropriate. I'm willing.
I would also recommend that if this board is inclined to grant the variance, that you put a condition that it's restricted only to the area depicted on page 20 or in the backyard, as is currently the minimum variance that could be reflected in the development order.
May we ask the applicant if he's would be satisfied with that requirement only and not to have the expanded area included?
Yeah, we can. Mr. Tovar, would you come back up? I did ask him, and he did specify restricted to the artificial grass to be restricted to your backyard. Is that my understanding?
Yes.
And so you are not making a request to have artificial grass in your front or side yards?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Never.
Just wanted to confirm that.
Can I add maybe
You may.
something? I understand the code. Now I understand. which is before, I don't even know, we did two contractors. But like Richard, it's some medical issues. I have two kids. Like yesterday, it's a true story. Beautiful day. They was jumping in the pool. Having a good time. What's your father? Inside.
So, Mr. Tovar, I did hear you, and we were discussing whether or not a medical condition could be considered within our code. So I think we're gonna go back to our discussion amongst ourselves and see what we can come up with, and then we will inform.
I understand.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right, any other discussion amongst the board?
Yeah, I just want to say, there are many, many properties within the city that have pebbles and stone in their front yards versus grass. And for years, and I haven't seen code enforcement or anybody say you have to remove it. So what Mr. Tovar's asking is minimal compared to what other property owners are doing in the city of Titusville.
Thank you. Anything else from the board?
I believe based on intent, as you read for us, I believe the intent is to have a nice, neat, maintainable yard. And if it's limited to the back, I'm going to support that.
All right, thank you. I'll entertain a motion. You can go back to page 8 for details.
Then I will make a motion that we approve this variance 14-2023 at 641 Loxley Court as presented on the map on page 20 in our minutes here, our report, to the area drawn in the backyard.
Council, sufficient? Yes, thank you. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I second.
Thank you. Any further discussion amongst the board? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Chairwoman Smith Rodriguez,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Taylor,
Yes.
Member Van Deven,
Yes.
Member Wheelis.
Yes.
All right. Mr. Tovar, your variance request is granted. You are now allowed to have your synthetic grass in your backyard only. Please be sure to educate yourself as to the city codes and rules for any future modifications to your property. You're free to go, sir. You okay? Deep breath. Enjoy that backyard. Fantastic. All right, have a good night. All right, so that brings us back to our agenda. Not yet. Soon, in a few days. Okay. Yes. You're welcome. All right. Do we have any petitions or requests from the public? There's no public presence, so I'm going to assume no. Apparently we have a report attached, the semi-annual report attached to the last part of our agenda here. Is this just an FYI, or do we need to approve something? Approve something. All right, so if everyone could take a look at the end of the packet. Starting on page 31 of the PDF. If everything looks right to you all and there are no issues, we can inform council that we are okay and we approve this report.
Yeah, this is where I'm confused. It said approved here, it said not approved on the minutes.
Oh,
It says approved here, but in the minutes it said. I have no
All right.
problem with what we have there.
all right, we have no objection. I guess let me ask it this way. Does any of our board members that are present have a disagreement or objection to us approving this report as a whole?
No.
No?
No.
No, and no.
Okay.
And neither do I. All right, so thank you for submitting the report to us. We're good with it. You are free to advance it wherever it's got to go.
When will this go before city council? Do you have a date?
I believe it's the first meeting in August.
First meeting in August. Thank you.
And just in light of our proceeding here today, I would just encourage the city to take a look at the code and the possible reasonable uses of synthetic grass and maybe make the code a little bit more clear. And in light of its own intent, just to consider it. Other than that, I have nothing. Anybody on the board have anything? No? Council? No. Staff?
We do have one variance request for next month.
Okay. All right, so hopefully we will all see everybody next month, and hopefully our other member will be back.
Are we still open for positions?
We are still open. You know, I was thinking about this. If we have an opening for a board, actually an alternate. We have an opening for an alternate board member, and because there's no public here, if you're watching it, that already tells me that you're interested in the city and its happenings, and dealing with the code on our board. So I would encourage you to submit your application to the city for consideration. Thank you. All right, everyone, good to go. Meeting adjourned.